Now, the Big One presents Sports Talk with your host, Ken Broo.
It was shaping up to be an unbelievable day in horse racing because it appeared up until about 48 hours ago that I'll Have Another was in prime position to seize the Triple Crown for the first time since 1978, when, of course, our own Steve Cawthon did it aboard Affirmed. Not to be now, as I'll Have Another was scratched late yesterday with a leg injury, an injury that apparently was not devastating, an injury that, frankly, it could have run with. But its owner decided to take the horse out of the race today and officially end its racing career. There is a lot of suspicion from a lot of areas today about whether or not this is a money-driven decision or if this is something that plays into all of the problems that its trainer, Doug O'Neill, was encountering. A lot of suspicion about this guy from jump since before the Kentucky Derby. Somebody that knows horse racing extremely well. In fact, he joined us here before the Kentucky Derby to handicap the race. He has owned a number. I don't know what the specific number is. I think it's well over 100. He's owned well over 100 racing horses, continues to breed and train, and is a guy that I came to meet back in February and really like and respect his opinion. He runs his own stable. His name is Jeff Greenhill, and his horses run consistently in all places, Churchill, out at Turfway Park and at River Downs. In fact, I think he has an entry today at River Downs. Jeff joins me now to talk about what has happened to I'll Have Another and what it means for the sport. Jeff, welcome again. Good to have you with us.
Good afternoon, Ken.
All right, so specifically what happened to I'll Have Another? Tell me exactly what happened to this horse.
Okay, specifically, I can't say because I haven't seen the leg and I haven't put my hand on it. They call it tendonitis. And the superficial digital flexor tendon that runs down the back of a leg's horse is analogous to our Achilles tendon. Mm-hmm. And so they're saying it was tendonitis. It's hard to speculate, but you're thinking he probably strained it badly or he may even have torn it. When you're sending a horse off the stud for what will be about a $100,000 stud fee, you probably call it tendonitis. If he were a $10,000 claimer at River Downs, you'd probably call it a bowed tendon. But either way, he strained or tore the tendon that runs down the back of his left foreleg.
So there's no doubt in your mind that he could not have raced today, because they claim that horses with this kind of an injury could be sent out to race. You're saying in your mind it was something that would keep him out of today's race.
What I'm saying, if he were running for $10,000 claim and tag at River Downs, you'd probably run him. He's in a classic, the Belmont, going 1.5 miles, and he's got a spotless record this year. He's 4 for 4. You don't send a horse out unless he's 100% in that case.
So this then was more of a business decision on the part of the owner, knowing that if he did go out and if there was an off chance he did injure himself again, or if he did not perform well, it would sully what he has done so far this season.
That's one way to look at it, yeah, and that would definitely be a consideration. The other thing to consider is if you've already got a compromised tendon and you run him and he breaks down in the stretch, then you have to put up with what Larry Jones had to put up with 8 fails, and then you get all the other speculation. If you're not 100% that your horse is sound, there's nothing but downside for running an injured horse, because if you break him down in the Belmont, number one, you've lost the stallion, and number two, your life becomes a living hell.
So you're saying that if he doesn't run today, basically his stud fee per attempt is going to be $100,000. If he were to win the Triple Crown, how much would that have gone up for him?
I'm guessing at the 100,000, but that would have to be pretty close. If he wins the Belmont, it probably goes up. I don't know. Maybe say it went up to 200,000. But say he breaks down in the stretch.
Right, then it goes to
zero.
nothing. It goes zero.
And say if he's eased, then it goes down from that 100,000. But what I'm saying is, I think the Connections did the absolute right thing. If they had a compromised horse, the last thing you want to do is run a horse that is not 100%. There's nothing but downside there. And I thought the Connections handled it with a lot of class because they brought the horse out at the press conference to show he was walking soundly. To tell you the truth, if I had been Doug O'Neill, they would have said, we tried to get a word with the trainer, but we understand he's in the tack room on the floor in the fetal position sucking his thumb.
So you're not a Doug O'Neill fan?
No, I am I'm a Doug O'Neill fan about the way he handled this.
Okay.
Now, other things about Doug O'Neill are very questionable. I mean, he does have some tests that indicate that he has given horses things in the past that are illegal, and he has a breakdown rate of his horses that are like double the national average, and that's another reason not to run a hurt horse. If you're already being questioned about possibly running unsound horses, then the last thing you want to do is run an unsound horse.
They it seemed like that the folks, the New York Racing Commissioner, whoever is in charge of that track, were suspicious of this guy and this horse from the time that he won the Preakness, because they quarantined these horses. I'm reading where they wouldn't let O'Neill prepare the horse's dinner or anything like that unless it was strictly supervised by people from this commission. Do you think that was all because of O'Neill? It seemed to be radical steps they were taking here for this thing.
Well, I would imagine that the rules applied to all the trainers, that none of the trainers, if the rules applied to Doug O'Neill, I bet they applied uniformly. Now, they did change a little bit, and they wanted to send all the Belmont horses to a receiving barn, specifically set aside for Belmont horses 4 days before the race. So, Dale Rollins had a problem with that because he said you don't want to keep changing a horse's environment because their habit's a creature. But I would imagine any rule that applied to Doug O'Neill applied across the board. Now, whether they set up that receiving barn 4 days before the race because of the questions about Doug O'Neill, I would be speculating.
Jeff Greenhill from Greenhill Racing joins us. He is a trainer in the northern Kentucky area. You have a horse in a race today at River Downs, right?
Yeah, I've got a horse in a stake race here. They don't like him much. He's 30 to 1 on the morning line. I don't think he'll go off at 30 to 1. But
well, that's because you'll be laying some money on him late, right?
No, I'm not much of a bettor unless I know something. Unless I know that the horse is training lights out. Yeah. But
What did you make of the criticism O'Neill was getting leading up to this? I mean, there were some very big names in horse racing and horse racing history that were leveling charges against this guy, that he was just doing what he was doing was bad, not only for the horses that he had, but also for the sport. Was it justified in your opinion?
Yeah, probably, because he has a checkered past. There's no other way around it. And he's looking at a 45-day suspension in California when all this is over with for high bicarbonate levels. In other words, he was probably giving his horses something like baking soda to keep the lactic acid from building up.
They call those things milkshakes, right?
They do call them milkshakes. Yeah. That's right. It's sugar and electrolytes and baking soda, and supposedly it keeps the lactic acid from building up in the muscles and lets the horse run further, faster.
And he claims he wasn't doing that with I'll Have Another, but and I think in California they said that he wasn't directly responsible for that, but it's on his watch, so he takes the fall, right?
There's a thing in the horse racing industry called 100% trainer responsibility. If somebody walks in your barn, if you can't afford a night watchman, and most of us can't, and somebody knows you've got a horse in tomorrow, and they walk through there and they give that horse a dose of Banamine, paste Banamine, you're responsible.
Yeah.
Anything that happens, the trainer is responsible.
The fact of the matter is that had I'll have another even just answered the bell for today's race, regardless if he wanted or he didn't, it really would have elevated this sport from just a hardcore audience really to that fringe base that every sport needs to make a go of it. The fact that he's not in this race today, how much does that hurt just the entire horse racing business?
Well, it takes the luster off today, but you have to remember there have been 12 horses that had the chance to do this since a firm did it in 1978, so I don't think it's a death kill. Mm-hmm. In other words, we've had this scenario over and over and over again since 1978. This is just another blown opportunity for it to happen. But I don't see it as being largely different from the other 12 horses that couldn't get it done for whatever reason.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, I mentioned this yesterday. I was on with Dan Carroll yesterday here on 700 WLW. I mentioned that the beauty of horse racing is that it regenerates every year. There's a whole new crop of 3-year-olds, and you may have the same opportunity present itself next year. And I think that's part of the thing that keeps the attention going for these Triple Crown races, is that just because it didn't happen this year, it's not like these horses all come back and try again next year. It's a whole new breed that comes through, a whole new crop that comes through. And there may be that Triple Crown winner he's just a 2-year-old this year.
Well, they went for a long time, and then they had 3 win it in the 70s, just like back-to-back. Mm-hmm. Secretariat and Seattle Slew and Affirmed. It seems to come and go. But like I said, there have been 12 horses that had this chance since 1978. Yeah, it happens quite frequently. Yeah. And then for whatever reason, Pilot Era. I mean, there are a couple of horses like Smarty Jones and Real Quiet who probably should have won the Triple Crown, but the jocks moved a little bit early on that 1.5-mile track because they saw when they were at the 3/4 pole, they were at the half-mile pole. Because you got to realize Belmont's 1.5 miles. So when you get to the point on the track where you usually send the horse, you're still 2 furlongs away from where you would normally be on a mile track.
Right.
So there have been a lot of reasons the Belmont's been lost.
Yeah.
I hate that today we're not all pulling for I'll have another to do it.
Meantime, I'm getting some tweets on my Twitter account that wants to know the name of your horse at River Downs. So why don't you give that just in case that 30-1 number might come down?
Okay, his name is Shake Your Groove Thing.
Shake Your Groove Thing, okay.
Yeah, Peaches and Herb.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Greenhill, Greenhill Racing, thanks so much for allowing us to tap into your expertise here and get a little background as to what may or may not be going on with I'll Have Another. We will chat down the road, my friend. Thank you.
Anytime, Ken. We'll see you in the winter, sir.
Yes, sir. Jeff Greenhill. I think that's, at the end of the day, it does come down to money. You're going to knock it out of the park one way or the other. It's just how far you want to hit the ball. And if you send I'll Have Another out there today, and he pulls up, as Jeff said, or God forbid he would go down and you would have to put the horse down, you have nothing. If he just pulls up, you lose or you drop off the stud fee that you already have in front of you. If he goes down, you get nothing. So this is all about preserving bloodline and breeding and everything else down the road. And oftentimes that's what you get in sport. You get a business decision. And it's pretty evident to me that the guy that owns this horse made a business decision.